I'm dolltr, and this is a track-by-track of my new EP, Innocent Intentions, which is out now. There are 5 songs on the EP, and essentially they tell the story of how dolltr came to be. When I went to college a couple of years ago, I experienced a couple of first times simultaneously. One of them was my first time falling in love with somebody. My first love was a really talented producer, and he is by far still one of the best producers that I've known in person. But long story short, things didn't really end well, and he broke up with me pretty suddenly, which left me in a very bad place. At the same time though, I was learning through school that I was pretty inclined towards music technology. So that was really cool, and it was my first time also studying it so in depth. There would be times when my classmates would be like, oh, it's so boring, but I would be there all nerdy and happy and like, yay, sound waves, yay, binary, yay, oscilloscopes, and whatever else there was. Of course, I was also really aware that I would often be 1 out of 2 or 3 girls in a class of maybe 10 or 15 and even 20 and above. That itself had its own set of issues, but I wanted to keep going because I really enjoyed what I was doing, so I did. It's this combination of different threads that Innocent Intentions as an EP tries to share. So yes, it's definitely a heartbreak EP, but it's also a very hopeful EP. So the first track is the title track, Innocent Intentions. Out of all the songs in the EP, this was actually the one that I wrote and produced the last. For a while, I was struggling for a name for the release as a whole. The exact combination of songs kept changing. So Innocent Intentions, the song kind of saved the day and just pulled together really all of my ideas for this album. The concept for this song came from a phrase that I often heard, which is like, oh, I never meant to hurt you, or I didn't mean to do that, and variations of that. Sometimes when we hurt somebody that we care about, yes, it's true that maybe we didn't intend on hurting them, but we also don't really get to decide what the impact of our actions is on another person. The thing is, if you hurt someone, they're hurt, and you can't unhurt them, and you can't take it back by undoing your actions. Production-wise, I think Innocent Intentions as a song is a pretty good representation of what the dolltr sound is like in my head at the moment. I love vocoders, which you probably know from watching my videos, and they're in the song too. And I also really like a dreamy kind of sound that packs a little bit of punch. So that's something I try to keep in mind whenever I'm doing vocal delivery or vocal arrangements in my music. Sometimes I'll describe my music as being cute but having a little bit of a bite. Maybe like a dog, a small dog that's like, I don't really know if that's a helpful description, but it's kind of the dolltr vibe. The second track on the EP is Paperthin. This song has a very, very, very special place in my heart. This was the first track I produced completely in Ableton Live after my heart got broken for the first time. I was listening to a lot of Zed at the time, and I still do. But I think that comes through a little bit more in the lead melodies of the drop, especially. There's something about the way Zed constructs a lot of his melodies, especially from a couple of years ago, that is just like almost heart-wrenching and makes you think of yearning, trying to search for something emotional. So I kind of wanted to emulate that a little bit, and also the idea of something falling apart kind of came to me in the song, except instead of breaking or crumbling, which is for another song, I kind of thought of something just becoming thinner and thinner and wearing out, almost like paper, where if you keep on rubbing it, eventually you'll get some kind of hole. The third track on my EP is Forgotten. One of the artists who my first boyfriend introduced me to, who ended up being one of my bigger electronic music influences, was Madion. By extension, I also started listening to a lot of Porter Robinson, and I learned so much from their music. Forgotten was one of those songs that I had written and then sat on for a long time, trying not to produce, almost because I was a little bit scared of doing something with it. Even after I did produce earlier, less polished versions of Forgotten, and then I try to start workshopping it in my live shows, which is something that I frequently do, I would almost be fearful of performing Forgotten. In the beginning, almost every time that I did it, I would end up being on the verge of tears, which is not ideal, especially if you're trying to breathe and then sing and it's like, oh. On that note, this is a song that I am also very fond of, because it was the first one where I composed the lead line on my iwi. It was just so refreshing and liberating to be able to give breath to a synthesized sound like that. So thank you to my parents for letting me learn the flute as a kid. The fourth track is Landslide. Similar to how Paperthin was the first production I did in live, Landslide was the first production that I did in full in Logic Pro X. I still use both Logic and Live, and I think the reason that Logic worked so well with Landslide was because at the time I was really handy with all of the native instruments in Logic. So producing it was really quick. It was like, oh, I need an organ, here it is. I need a bass sound that I know I can make an ES2, there it is. I need all these samples from EXS24 and stuff from RetroSynth and physical modeling and sculpture, la 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 la. Vocally, I had redone the Landslide vocals several times. Somehow something didn't really feel right. I think with the newer takes, I wasn't really able to dig into that same place mentally that I was when I first did the song. So the final lead vocal take that did make it on the EP is actually the very first one-take vocal that I did for the demo version of the song. Landslide itself is pretty much about being trapped and suspended, if you will, in a state of feeling like you're stuck, or maybe even infinitely falling in a landslide. But maybe there's redemption after, which brings us to the next song. So the final track on the EP is Battleground, which is also the single of the EP. Throughout life, I think we always go through different kinds of battles, and I really wanted this song to apply to whatever challenges anybody might be facing. Ultimately, I think that's why I decided on having it be the single, and in the past, whenever I've performed Battleground, it's always been the one song where people come up to me and be like, oh, I really related to that, and I really enjoyed the way you delivered that. So I hope this song continues to do that for people and inspire people that way. I also want to give a huge shout out to my friend Dionys Lim, who animated the music video for Battleground, which if you haven't checked out yet, please do. Dionys and I met back when we were 13 years old in school. And I think it was just serendipitous that we both ended up being artists and now collaborators as adults. She also did the amazing cover art for the EP, so thank you, Dionys! Thank you also to Bandwagon for featuring and reviewing Battleground after it was released. It really means a lot to me. They highlighted one of the lines from Battleground, which is actually my favorite part of the whole song. It's the very last line, and I hope you'll listen to it and that it resonates with you too. So that is the Innocent Intentions EP. Woo! Thank you so much to everyone who helped make this album possible. I want to give a big thank you to my mastering engineer and friend and one of the best people I know, Gareth Wong. Gareth also goes by Bloom as an artist, and he's an amazing producer, so please check out his music too. Shout out as well to everyone who supported me through Patreon and Ko-fi for this. If you'd like to help me too in the future, please head over to those. I'll put the link somewhere, like in the video or down there in the description. I also want to thank you for letting me share my music with you. I used to have another YouTube channel years ago, and for a while I stopped posting videos, in part because I was busy, but also because I felt like something was missing. And I'm still trying to find things, I am, but I think I'm closer to where I've been trying to go than I ever have been before. So really thank you always for supporting and watching my content and my videos and my music. You can stream Innocent Intentions now across online platforms, or you can also head over to my Bandcamp page where you can support me by purchasing my music. I am an independent artist, so I am doing everything on my own, but really every little bit of support totally helps and is much appreciated. Like I mentioned a bit earlier, you can also buy me a virtual coffee through Ko-fi, which is great because I love coffee. So that would be awesome too, and something I'd be really grateful for. Otherwise, this has been dolltr. Thank you so much again. I hope you enjoy Innocent Intentions, and I'll see you again soon. dolltr.